Steve Brock, he is a senior advisor to the Secretary of the Navy. He has served in a variety of capacities within the Navy, retiring as a captain as well as at the White House, the Pentagon, the U.S. mission to the United Nations, and the private sector. Before returning to government as a Biden administration appointee, he served as senior advisor to the Council on Strategic Risk and Center for Climate and Security, as senior adjunct at RAND Corporation, and on the advisory board of water technology company 374 Water. During the Obama administration, he served at the National Security Council as Director for Asia Security Affairs, as well as Director for Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific. He also co-chaired with White House counsel on the Environmental Quality Chair and Interagency Policy Committee for the Strategic Rebalance to Asia. He is a 1990 graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy with a degree in marine engineering and is a distinguished graduate of master's degree programs at Georgetown University's School of Foreign Service and the National Defense University's Eisenhower School. Please help me welcome to the stage Steve Brock.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you just heard, I'm not Secretary Del Toro. I'm Steve Brock. I'm senior advisor for the last 3 years. He jokingly often calls me SAFE, senior advisor for everything, which occasionally includes pinch hitting in events like this. So I was at the Hudson Institute this morning speaking on the Allied Industrial Base when he let me know that he needed me to come out of the bullpen for this. I know I'm mixing my baseball analogies here, metaphors here during World Series season. But it's a real honor to be back here at the Naval Academy, and it's a great honor to be here at the Naval Institute, which has been a pillar of our Navy's strategic culture for over 150 years. Thank you, Rear Admiral Spicer, for the introduction, and also Admiral Winnefeld, Admiral Cottle, all flag and general officers, distinguished guests, Navy Marine Corps leaders, and Naval Academy faculty. Thank you for being here for this very important discussion. The situation in the world today continues to underscore why the Defense Industrial Base is so important. In Europe, we're approaching the 3rd anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion and illegal invasion of Ukraine. We continue to stand with Ukraine in their just cause. Our warships in the Red Sea and Eastern Mediterranean have demonstrated exceptional performance under fire, successfully defeating missile and drone attacks targeting innocent maritime shipping. Just this month, 2 of our highly capable destroyers, USS Cole, a warship which carries a legacy of standing tall to acts of terrorism, and USS Bulkley, obviously a ship that's very special to the Secretary himself, have aided our Israeli allies in shooting down Iranian ballistic missiles. We should all be incredibly proud of the professionalism, dedication, and resilience shown by our sailors in these recent combat operations. Just over a year ago, Secretary Del Toro introduced our vision for a new maritime statecraft. Maritime statecraft encompasses not only naval diplomacy and maritime competition, but a national whole-of-government effort to build comprehensive U.S. and allied maritime power. Our maritime statecraft strategy invests in rebuilding the foundations of national sea power to ensure our continued maritime dominance over the near, medium, and long-term horizons. Beginning with the near term, while we work to expand our shipbuilding capacity and the number of ships that we're constructing, we're also focusing significant attention on innovations that will make our current fleet more formidable. We tested one such innovation just last week off the coast of San Diego. The Secretary and I and a group from NAVSEA and MSC were aboard the Washington Chambers, and we were doing UNREP with the USS Chosin, and demonstrating the transportable rearming mechanism, which will provide our surface combatants with a game-changing capability to reload their vertical launch systems while underway in open ocean, a capability that has eluded us for decades. TRAM surpassed expectations, enabling successful connected reloading operations in Sea State 4. Once TRAM is fielded across the fleet, our warships will no longer need to withdraw from combat for extended periods of time to reload in port. Our successful operations in the Red Sea only underscore the tremendous value that TRAM will bring once fielded. By enabling our combatants to refill their magazines underway, TRAM offers our forces a powerful near-term deterrent, which will disrupt the strategic calculus of those who would do us harm. And we continue to innovate and implement additional technologies that will make our fleet and force more formidable. An upcoming demonstration, very similar to TRAM, but on the East Coast, the Modular Console Adapter Kit is an easily and rapidly installable refueling station aboard Navy combat logistics fleets to refuel from commercial product tankers. MCAC will be a force multiplier for our MSC oilers, greatly expanding our ability to refuel our ships and remain at sea for extended periods of time. Our investments in innovation, like TRAM and MCAC, effectively increase the size of our fleet, a prospect that should give any would-be aggressor pause in this critical strategic window. But looking to the medium term, Secretary Del Toro is working to ensure the department is as effective a buyer of ships, aircraft, and weapons as we can be. This past year, Secretary Del Toro drove the creation of Government Shipbuilders Council, uniting the Department of Navy, MARAD, Coast Guard, and NOAA, and yes, even the Army, to tackle common challenges in ship construction and maintenance. That's 4 different federal departments: Homeland Security, Transportation, Commerce, and DoD, all government ship buyers and ship maintainers. Under the current paradigm, one of the most effective tools we have in our current arsenal of shipbuilding authorities are block buys. And in a monopsony situation that we find ourselves in over the last many years, block buys are one source of leverage that we have. They allow us to create a consistent demand signal for our industrial base, securing a steady flow of work for the next decade and beyond. Just last month, the Navy awarded contracts for procurement of 1 America-class amphibious assault ship and 3 San Antonio-class amphibious transport docks. This agreement sends still yet another steady demand signal to our shipbuilding industrial base. In addition to our amphibious ship procurement, the Department of the Navy awarded a block buy contract to procure 8 TAO ships. These block buys will provide significant cost savings to the American taxpayer, demonstrating responsible stewardship of public funds. Our accelerated training and defense manufacturing programs in disciplines such as additive manufacturing, computer numerical control machining, quality assurance and metrology, non-destructive testing, and welding will prepare our new graduates to immediately contribute to our fleet's readiness and to thousands of critical industry partners across the industrial base. Through this innovative whole-of-government, whole-of-industry approach, we are directly addressing a critical gap in skilled labor in our submarine industrial base, an industrial base that will need to hire an additional 100,000 workers over the next decade to build and launch submarines at the pace the Navy requires. And this year in Michigan, we announced the formal launch of the Michigan Maritime Manufacturing Initiative. Through this initiative, the Department of the Navy is working alongside partners including the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Macomb County Planning and Economic Development, and Michigan Works. The M3 initiative will implement a tailored and accelerated training curriculum focused on maritime welding and machining at key community programs throughout the region. There is this focus that we currently have on the highly skilled blue-collar workforce that is a resident in states like Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, and we are seeking to go to where the skilled workforce is and not just relying on the lack of workforce we often have in the areas of the shipyards on the coasts. An additional initiative of the Secretary is a partnership between union presidents where we are leveraging not only the apprenticeship training programs of the unions, but also have entered into an agreement, for instance, with the president of the Boilermakers International to train already skilled construction welders in North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and quickly certify them in Navy welding to be used as a rotational workforce. We had 800 applicants right off the bat from those 4 states, quickly certified 169, and deployed 80 of them about 2 weeks ago to Newport News to begin work on the Enterprise CVN 80. So looking at the long term, a key tenet of maritime statecraft is the recognition that no great naval power has long endured without also being a commercial maritime power, both a shipbuilding and shipping power. That is why we've been working outside the lifelines of the Department of the Navy, meeting with cabinet leaders across this administration to build awareness and advocacy and action on the long-term solutions to many of the Navy's challenges that we require from a renewed health of our nation's broader sea power ecosystem. The Secretary and I have met with leaders across the administration, including National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of Commerce Raimondo, U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai, DCI Burns, and several others on the need to create an internationally competitive U.S. maritime industry. We've also met with some of our country's most esteemed labor leaders, including Acting Secretary of Labor Julie Su and President of the U.S. Steelworkers David McCall, to coordinate efforts to expand good-paying blue-collar, new-collar seafaring jobs in shipping and shipbuilding. And there's tremendous enthusiasms in both those areas for our partnership. We've catalyzed multiple White House-led interagency processes on both naval and commercial shipbuilding, bringing together the National Security Council, the National Economic Council, and departments, as I've mentioned, across the executive branch. And our team is working with partners in Congress to reinvigorate existing but unfunded authorities and craft new incentives to build and flag commercial vessels in the United States. You might have heard of a significant effort in the works that's being led by Senator Kelly and Congressman Waltz called the SHIPS Act. We are diligently working to create a new paradigm of genuine market competition, one that leverages the power of dual-use commercial and naval shipbuilding, which has proven so successful for our competitors and allies alike. We expect these efforts will offer significant returns to Navy, shipbuilding, and sea lift in the long term. And maritime statecraft has gone global. In February, the Secretary and I traveled to the Republic of Korea and Japan, where we met with top executives of some of the world's most technologically advanced and prolific dual-use commercial and naval shipbuilders. These companies are recognized leaders of the global shipbuilding industry, and their presence in the United States could introduce new competitive dynamics, renewed innovation, and unrivaled industrial capacity within the domestic shipbuilding market. During each of these engagements, the Secretary brought to the table a simple yet profound opportunity and message: invest in America. In June, Hanwha announced they had reached an agreement to purchase the Philly shipyard. Hanwha's intent is to expand the yard's facilities, update its technology, double the size of its workforce, and quadruple the output of the yard, and eventually compete for both commercial and naval shipbuilding contracts. We are hopeful that Hanwha will be just the first of many world-class shipbuilders to come to America and take part in our country's maritime renaissance. Our national maritime statecraft is not only a set of initiatives, but it's also a cultural shift in thinking. Maritime statecraft is a mindset. It's how we view ourselves and our contributions to our national security and the world. As we develop our new approach to maritime statecraft, it is imperative we have leaders in the Department of the Navy who have the strategic acumen not only to fight and win if called upon, but also to prevail in protecting our national interests and prosperity during this era of intense competition. This is one reason why the Secretary nominated Vice Admiral Fred Kacher, a Naval Academy classmate of mine and a longtime friend of the Naval Institute, to take command of the 7th Fleet. As has been extensively written about in the pages of Naval Institute proceedings, in his previous sea tour as commander of Task Force 76, Admiral Kacher was a key architect of a remarkable prototype operation which pioneered a new approach to support our partners' civilian vessels in standing up to the PRC's coercive maritime insurgency in the South China Sea. Admiral Kacher combined diverse naval and Marine Corps forces at his disposal to establish and maintain a persistent presence in determined support of a Malaysian partner facing pressure to abandon its lawful exploration of its offshore resources. Understanding the political influence of sea power in advancing the security and prosperity of the nation should permeate and color how we approach operations every day. As we look to the future, we must continue to make informed decisions about shipbuilding, maintenance, repair, and the future of the fleet, which will impact and shape the Navy for decades to come. Greater investment in our naval and commercial shipbuilding infrastructure, both public and private, is imperative to provide and maintain a Navy and Marine Corps able to defend our national security. We are indeed a maritime nation, and it's imperative that all of us gathered today, and those that are watching online and throughout the nation, remain committed to providing for and maintaining a Navy and Marine Corps that guarantees our national and economic security. Thank you all for your commitment to the Department of the Navy, the Maritime Services, and our nation. May God continue to bless our sailors, Marines, civilians, including our civilian mariners, and their families stationed around the globe with fair winds and following seas. And now I look forward very much to your questions.
All right, if for people in the live audience here, if you've got questions, please come to the microphones. Important to state a question and not just to give a little speech. And for our virtual audience, I'll be taking questions on the iPad here, and I'll sort of moderate between the virtual questions and the live questions in the audience. Ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Brenda Schaefer. I'm a faculty member of the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. In the last decade, the DoD and the U.S. Navy have done a lot to promote understanding strategy of operational energy. And I'm holding a book, the first textbook of its kind on operational energy, if of interest to any of you. Operational energy has two aspects. One is providing energy for warfighting, but the second aspect is disrupting energy supplies of our adversaries. On the second side, it seems that in recent years, the United States has put limitations on its allies and partners on how it disrupts energy supplies to its own adversaries. For instance, on Ukraine, we've put limits on attacking Russian energy export and refineries, and on Israel, we've not only asked them not to disrupt energy supplies to Hamas, but actually provide it to Hamas. This has lengthened both of these wars. How do you see us going in future? Will the United States also refrain from disrupting energy supplies to adversaries, or do we have a different approach?
Well, I think, as far as the question that pertains to disrupting energy supplies to in the current context, not in a hypothetical situation, but currently to various entities around the world, that is very much a National Security Council and policy decision that's made at the White House and through the interagency process on those very important foreign policy decisions. From a Navy perspective, right, for planning and how we're going to conduct our operations and fight our future wars, that's an important part of how we might employ naval forces in the future, according to various plans. But also, we're also very focused on, our own ability to be effective in that realm and to reduce the amount of energy that we need so that we can, operate with in a situation where we're under contested logistics. And right now facing a severe limitation on oilers and tankers, et cetera. So from my perspective, we're very much focused on improving our ability to be energy efficient and to figure out how we're going to get fuel where we need it, when we need it, in future conflict. And we'll let the powers that be decide how we would be employed to disrupt energy to others in any given international context.
Commander Massengale, visiting fellow for the Simpson Center. The Columbia class has been repeatedly cited as the #1 acquisition priority. The CNO in her NAV plan also cited robotics as a very core focus. Where does SLCM N fit in terms of acquisition or funding priority within the Navy?
So, that has been something that has been discussed at length, and the Secretary, has made his views known on where we should potentially put resources. That's a very, expensive proposition, and it has a limited use. It's a very specific purpose, and so we need to balance the amount of resources we need to do several things across the Navy and take that into consideration.
A question from our audience, our remote audience. In light of the Indo-PACOM hellscape concept, how is the Department of the Navy and the Defense Industrial Base positioned to support large-scale UUV production?
So we have gone to several producers. The Secretary has gone to several producers, and we've talked to them that there's not only a need from a demand signal and the appropriate resources from us, and that's also getting Congress on board to provide more than just discrete or short-term type of funding, but there's also a need for the ability to innovate and to be able to manufacture at scale. So we don't have the capacity right now in this nation to manufacture at scale like that. And there's been a lot of focus on innovation in the gadgets and gizmos and the eachs and the operational capabilities. One thing that we've really tried to emphasize is we need as much effort into innovation in manufacturing. So not only innovation in how we can build things more quickly and more affordably and at a higher quality, and not only build things that are innovative, but also it'd be a tremendous force multiplier to be able to build standard things that we need in large numbers the ways I just described to you, and we will be able to do that in a much more effective way if we can put some effort or more effort into innovating manufacturing and production processes and not just innovation in the actual outputs that come out of the production process.
Hi, Tom Duffy. My last job was teaching about strategy at the National War College. Thank you for a very informative discussion. We've seen newspaper reports about sending a THAAD battery to northern Israel to deal with the ballistic missile threat coming to the north from Israel. And the speculation is that that mission was being performed by ships, by the Navy offshore. Now, there's a lot more political liability in stationing troops ashore to appear to conduct what apparently is the same mission. So this being a defense industrial base discussion, I'd be interested in your views on some of the policy implications if we don't adequately fund things like SM-2 production.
Yes. Tom, great to see you. Were you going to the Navy Notre Dame game?
Go Irish.
I hope you are. I was thinking about you yesterday when I was buying my tickets. So Tom and I worked at the U.S. mission to the UN back in 1999. And he's always got great questions. So, very timely question. We were just out at RTX last week talking about missile production and talking about the things that we could do to increase missile production. And that was 1 week before we went out and did the Rearm at Sea demonstration last Friday. And you've raised a great point on why Navy ships are very versatile and very helpful in the diplomatic front because, once you're outside of 12 nautical miles, you don't have to worry about somebody else's sovereignty. You don't have to worry about all the things that are required to place forces and weapons ashore and all of the constraints sometimes that go into like limiting how you might be able to use those from somebody else's sovereign territory. But for us to be able to use our sea-based capabilities, one, we need to be able to rearm those ships at sea and not pull them out for weeks at a time to rearm them like we refuel them. And then also we need to produce the number of missiles that we need to currently meet the operational requirements that we have. But then also if you're going to have this great new capability, you're going to actually need something to rearm them with. And we all know the number of ships and the number of missiles we're going to need in a large-scale contingency in the Western Pacific. Yes, I think is my answer to your question. We've sent the signal in many ways, and that's another example of my last answer, right? So we need to innovate the manufacturing processes. We've had the luxury for decades, especially in this area, to build missiles like we build Ferraris, right? And we need to move to more building them like, cars that aren't handcrafted. We need to be able to produce them in much greater numbers, and that requires innovation in manufacturing processes, and that requires capital investment in those factories, and so we're trying to get after that.
Hi, Stacy Shepard, consultant. You talked about leveraging maritime statecraft to supplement current capacities. Can you talk about your desired end state as you're looking to leverage regional allies for manufacturing and or maintenance capacities, as well as encouraging allied investment, as you mentioned, up at the Philly shipyard, and support for some privatized and private equity investments like in Alabama? What does that desired end state look like?
So yes, all the above. On the one, did you ask me about doing things overseas? Was
Yes.
that okay?
Yes. So finding that right balance between leveraging allied capacities overseas, which is a newer concept, and then investments locally as well as privatized investments. So trying to get that total balance.
Yes. So currently, as far as what we do overseas, there are strict limitations on that in the law. Right. And so we have been trying to drive home the message to our allied partners and to the world's best shipbuilders abroad that rather than sort of waiting out and hoping that one day we'll be doing work over there, that they should instead focus their efforts on getting here. Because there's going to be a lot more political support, of course, to doing things here than there is to doing things abroad. At the point in time where our whole of government approach and our partners on the Hill deem it possible to do something that we currently can't do, then of course, then there'll be a wider universe of things that make more sense in that regard. But right now, we're operating within what the current confines are and trying to get action and directed, towards that. As far as private equity, yes, we are not only trying to attract foreign shipbuilders to America. We're also open to those that want to invest in shipbuilding in America. And whether they want to, this is venture capital, private equity, and however it's configured, very supportive of that. Of course, there's that initial effort in Alabama Shipyard in the context of it being surrounded by Austal, and some of the possibilities to expand in that regard. Others have noted that. They're not the first. There's been other folks in the private equity world that have come to us, and there's some enthusiasm about finding a partner to enter into shipbuilding and ship maintenance in various places, either greenfield, brownfield, or current shipyards. One of the reasons that we have sort of been enthusiastic about shipbuilders abroad is because they're proven, they know what they're doing, and they have sort of the capital and they have sort of the size to enter, an industry that you can't just enter without knowing what you're doing, right? So we've been encouraging those investors on the American side with the financial resources to find a partner that knows how to build ships and run a shipyard and build a shipyard to be most successful. And that's the matchmaking that needs to continue.
One more question just came in on the iPad here, and it was probably better directed towards our morning panel discussion. But Steve, I know you're a mile wide and a mile deep on a lot of Navy issues. What has the Navy done to reduce dependence on electrical supply from local regional utility grids, i.e. utilization of microgrids and/or distributed generation, which can produce both electrical power and heat?
Okay, I'll give you one example. Miramar Marine Corps Air Station, the microgrid there has actually demonstrated the ability not only to operate entirely independent of the public power source there, but also has demonstrated the ability to provide power back, to the local community. There are several other examples. The first net zero base is the Marine Corps Logistics Facility down in Albany, Georgia. And that was a partnership with the local utilities and also the local economic development team there. And there's a host of other examples of installations around the Navy that have not only cut their power consumption by these kind of technologies, but also have the capability to actually assist in certain times with providing power to the outside. Energy and installation resilience is a top priority of the Secretary. Not only from the energy perspective, but also like right here at the Naval Academy. He's several energy initiatives here, also the Seawall Initiative. There's several coastal and sea level rise initiatives at Parris Island, at Norfolk. The list goes on and on where we're trying to make a difference at our installations here in the U.S. And then also, to an extent, helping our partners and allies with their challenges abroad. Many folks don't know the tremendous amount of work that the Austin Naval Research has done on this area. And, there's been, as part of our naval diplomacy efforts and as part of the Secretary's personal naval diplomacy, around the world, he has delivered ONR funded real, tangible energy and climate decision tools and other technologies to island leaders in the Pacific and various other partners around the world. And sort of the lesson to that story is There's a whole bunch of stuff that is being done in the Department of Navy. It's a massive enterprise. There's a ton of good work going on in things you never dreamed of, and you only find out about it when the Secretary has to give a speech, or you decide the Secretary is going to give a speech about something abroad, and you put out a data call for examples, and you get buried in many, many good things that the Navy enterprise is doing, and then that just whets the appetite for senior leadership to learn more. And we've basically, for 3 years, been, going around now and highlighting the good work that all sorts of folks throughout the Navy and Marine Corps have been doing on a whole range of these topics that really providing a real value to partners and helping not only our naval diplomacy, but the State Department, et cetera.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Lieutenant Bersati. I'm an instructor at Nuclear Power School. We've recently seen a single poorly operated merchant ship cut off the city of Baltimore from the sea. We've also seen a similar situation in the Suez Canal. If this had happened in the Hampton Roads Channel instead, the same fate would befall 60% of our carrier fleet. Has there been any thought given to distributing the carrier fleet to other ports with deep water channels and nuclear maintenance facilities? For example, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, or Kings Bay, Georgia, or any other thought given to reducing this vulnerability?
So I know that there's a constant sort of assessment of where our forces are best positioned for the strategic challenges that we face. That's a really good question. That in that very particular circumstance, I personally am not aware of the fact that a merchant vessel taking down a bridge in that area could bottle up a significant amount of the fleet. I'm sure others have. I'm sure there's people sitting here in the audience that probably have that question, thoroughly analyzed and everything under, have a handle on it. But I'll get back to you to confirm that.
Thank you, sir.
Sneaking up on you. I'm going to keep with the baseball analogy and say thank you, because you were in the bullpen, but you didn't even have a chance to warm up, didn't throw any pitches, and you came out here and you hit it out of the park. So thank you so much for stepping in for the Secretary. And if you'd please join me in a round of applause for Steve Brock. We can't let you escape with the Neptune Factor, the book we've been getting everybody today by Nicholas Lambert. Thank you so much. And we're going to take a break and come back at 2:30 for our last panel of the day, and it's going to be moderated by Admiral Caudle, and it's on infrastructure resilience. So see you back at 2:30. Thank you.